At 8:47 on January 22, 1943, Staff Sergeant Michael Brennan pressed his face against the cheek rest of a rifle that his battalion commander had called a goddamn dear gun, and watched a banyan tree 267 yards away through optics his fellow NCOs had mocked for 2 months straight. Brennan was 29 years old. Pennsylvania State Rifle Champion, 1938 and 1940. Two-time winner at Camp Perry. Expert marksman with the Pennsylvania National Guard since 1936. He'd been on Guadalcanal since December 20th, 1942, assigned to the 147th Infantry Regiment, and he had exactly 0 combat kills to his name. Not because he couldn't shoot, because nobody would let him use his rifle. The rifle was a Remington Model 30 Express with a Lyman 48 receiver sight and a custom 10x Unertl scope Brennan had paid for with 3 years of weekend guard pay. Total cost, $287. Weight, 10 pounds, 4 ounces with the scope mounted. The scope alone weighed 22 ounces and extended 16 inches beyond the receiver. Every other man in the 147th carried a standard-issue M1 Garand. 9.5 pounds, no magnification, semi-automatic, 8-round EN block clip. Fast, reliable, perfect for infantry combat at ranges under 300 yards. Brennan's Remington was bolt action. 5 rounds in the internal magazine. 1 shot, work the bolt, eject the spent case, chamber a fresh round, reacquire target. Slower than the Garand by every measurable standard. Major Philip Crawford, Brennan's company commander, had ordered him to leave the sporting rifle in the barracks and carry a real weapon. Crawford said this was war, not a turkey shoot in the Alleghenies. Brennan carried it anyway. He just didn't get to use it. The 147th had arrived on Guadalcanal to relieve the 1st Marine Division in late December. The Marines had fought since August 7th. They'd taken Henderson Field in the first 72 hours. They'd held it through 4 months of Japanese counterattacks, naval bombardments, air raids, and jungle disease. They'd won, but they were exhausted. Malaria cases exceeded 50% in some companies. The Marines needed relief. The Army's 147th Infantry Regiment arrived with fresh troops, clean uniforms, and no combat experience. The Marines looked at them with a mixture of pity and contempt. Told them to dig deep foxholes because the Japanese Navy liked to shell the island at night. Told them to boil all drinking water because dysentery would kill you slower than bullets but just as dead. Told them the real enemy wasn't the Japanese army, it was the snipers. Japanese snipers had been operating in the jungle west of Henderson Field since September. They worked from the massive trees that dominated the coastal groves. Banyan trees, some reaching 110 feet tall with trunks 12 feet in diameter. A skilled sniper could climb one of those trees before dawn, tie himself into position with rope, and remain invisible all day while picking off Americans at ranges between 200–400 yards. The Marines had killed some of them, but not all of them. And the ones who survived were the smartest, the most patient, the deadliest. On January 19th, 3 days after the 147th took over the sector, a Japanese sniper killed Private First Class Raymond Keller while he was shaving outside his tent. Single shot to the head at approximately 340 yards. Keller died instantly. Nobody heard the shot. Nobody saw the muzzle flash. The bullet just arrived and Keller's head snapped back and he collapsed with half his face gone and shaving cream still on his jaw. On January 20th, another sniper killed 2 men from C Company during a patrol near the Mechanical River. Both shot from behind, both through the upper back, both dead before they hit the ground. The patrol returned fire into the trees, expended over 200 rounds, hit nothing. On January 21st, The snipers killed 4 more Americans. 1 medic, 2 riflemen, 1 lieutenant. The lieutenant's name was Donald Pierce. He'd been in command of the company for exactly 6 days. Pierce was shot while conferring with his platoon leaders in what should have been a safe area, 150 yards behind the front line. The bullet entered through his left ear and exited through his right temple. Whoever fired that shot could see through jungle canopy and make precision hits at distance. By the evening of January 21st, 7 Americans were dead in 3 days. All killed by unseen snipers. All killed at ranges beyond 200 yards. The 147th Infantry Regiment had no counter-sniper capability. They had excellent infantry riflemen, but nobody with long-range precision shooting experience. Nobody except Staff Sergeant Michael Brennan, who'd been begging Major Crawford for permission to hunt the snipers with his Remington since the first kill. Crawford had refused. Said Brennan's place was with his squad, not playing Daniel Boone in the jungle. After Lieutenant Pierce died, Crawford changed his mind. At 2,130 hours on January 21st, Crawford summoned Brennan to the company command post. Crawford looked tired. He'd been awake for 36 hours straight dealing with casualties and trying to organize patrols that kept getting picked apart by invisible shooters. Crawford asked Brennan one question: "Can you kill these sons of bitches or not?" Brennan said he could, but he'd need time, ammunition, and permission to work alone. Crawford gave him until sunrise. Brennan spent the night preparing his equipment. The Remington Model 30 Express was a civilian hunting rifle, a bolt-action design based on the military 1917 Enfield. Brennan had bought it in 1937 for deer hunting in the Pennsylvania mountains. Accurate, reliable, chambered in. 30-06 Springfield, the same cartridge the Garand fired. But where the Garand was designed for volume of fire, the Remington was designed for precision. Brennan had modified the rifle over the years. Custom trigger job, 2.5-pound pull. Glass-bedded action for consistent accuracy. Hand-loaded ammunition with match-grade bullets seated to exact specifications for the rifle's chamber. At 600 yards with good conditions, Brennan could put 5 shots into a 7-inch circle. He'd proven it at Camp Perry in 1940, placed 3rd in the long-range competition. But that was paper targets on a known distance range with spotters and wind flags. Guadalcanal would be different. The jungle environment created variables Brennan had never dealt with. Heat shimmer distorted distant targets. Humidity affected bullet trajectories. The massive trees blocked wind at ground level but allowed it to blow freely at canopy height, creating unpredictable air currents. And the targets would shoot back. Brennan loaded 80 rounds of his hand-loaded ammunition into stripper clips. He cleaned the Unertl scope's lenses with lens paper and alcohol. He checked the scope mounts, tightened every screw, verified that the reticle was level. He test-fired 3 rounds at a makeshift 100-yard range behind the battalion area to confirm 0. All 3 shots grouped within 2 inches of point of aim. Good enough. At 0530 on January 22nd, Brennan moved into position. He'd chosen his hide the previous day while reviewing the areas where Americans had been shot. All 7 kills had occurred within a 600-yard radius of a specific grove of banyan trees west of the airfield perimeter. The snipers were operating from those trees. Brennan was certain of it. He selected a position inside a destroyed Japanese pillbox 320 yards east of the grove. The pillbox had been hit by naval gunfire during the Marine assault in August. 1 wall was collapsed, but the other 3 provided cover. The collapsed wall faced west toward the banyan grove, giving Brennan a clear field of view while keeping him concealed from Japanese observers. He settled into the pillbox with his Remington, his ammunition, 2 canteens of water, and a poncho. The poncho wasn't for rain. It was to shade the Unertl scope's objective lens. The lens was large and would reflect sunlight if positioned incorrectly. That reflection could give away his position to anyone watching. Brennan set up his rifle on a sandbag rest he deconstructed from an empty burlap bag filled with dirt. The rest stabilized the rifle and reduced muscle fatigue during extended observation periods. Then he began glassing the trees through his scope. The Unertl had 10 power magnification. At 300 yards, targets appeared to be 30 yards away. Brennan could see individual leaves, branches, the texture of bark. He could also see movement that would be invisible to the naked eye. He scanned systematically, left to right, top to bottom, tree by tree, looking for anything that didn't belong. A straight line in nature's curves. At 0842, he found the first sniper. The Japanese soldier was positioned 89 feet up in a banyan tree, 267 yards from Brennan's position. The sniper had tied himself into a fork where 3 large branches met. His body was mostly concealed by leaves, but Brennan could see his head and shoulders through a gap in the foliage. The sniper was facing northeast, watching the trail where American supply parties moved between the airfield and the forward positions. He held an Arisaka Type 97 sniper rifle with a 2.5x scope. Brennan could see the scope's outline against the sky. Brennan studied the target for 3 minutes. He needed to confirm this was a sniper and not some random Japanese soldier who climbed a tree to hide. The rifle with scope confirmed it. The elevated position confirmed it. The patience, the complete stillness of a man who'd been in position for hours, confirmed it. Brennan calculated the shot. Range, 267 yards. Elevation, approximately 85 feet above his position, creating a steep upward angle. Wind, light, maybe 3 miles per hour from the southwest. Temperature, 84 degrees Fahrenheit. Humidity near 90%. He adjusted his scope. 2 clicks up for the elevated angle. 1 click right for wind. He controlled his breathing. Slow, deep breaths. Let half the air out. Hold. Begin the trigger squeeze during the natural respiratory pause between breaths. The Remington's trigger broke clean at 2.5 pounds. The rifle recoiled into Brennan's shoulder. The report cracked through the jungle, sharp and loud. 267 yards away, the Japanese sniper jerked violently and fell backward out of the tree. His body tumbled through the branches, hit other branches on the way down, finally struck the jungle floor with an impact Brennan couldn't hear but could imagine. Brennan worked the bolt. The spent cartridge case ejected and landed on the pillbox floor with a metallic clink. He chambered another round and immediately resumed scanning through his scope. Japanese snipers worked in pairs. 1 shooter, 1 spotter. If Brennan had just killed the shooter, the spotter was nearby. And now the spotter knew someone was hunting him. Brennan found the second sniper at 0851. Different tree, same grove. This one was 73 feet up, 241 yards away. The sniper was moving, descending the tree rapidly. He'd heard the shot, knew his partner was dead, knew he needed to relocate. Moving made him visible. Brennan tracked the descending figure through his scope. The sniper was climbing down the trunk, using branches as handholds, moving fast but not recklessly. Brennan led the movement. Put the crosshairs slightly below where the sniper would be in 2 seconds. Began his trigger squeeze. The Remington fired. The sniper fell. Not straight down like the first one. He pitched backward and sideways, arms flailing, trying to grab something. He fell 73 feet and landed in undergrowth at the tree's base. 2 shots. 2 kills. But Brennan knew the sound of his rifle had just announced his presence to every Japanese soldier within a half mile. He needed to relocate. He grabbed his rifle and ammunition and moved north along the pillbox's interior wall. There was a drainage ditch 40 yards away. He sprinted to it, dropped into the ditch, crawled 30 yards east, then climbed out and moved to a new position behind a cluster of coconut palms. The whole relocation took 90 seconds. He was breathing hard but steady. He set up his rifle again and resumed scanning the banyan grove. At 0927, a bullet struck the coconut palm 18 inches above Brennan's head. The impact sent fragments of palm fiber and wood splinters down onto his helmet and shoulders. The shot had come from the southwest. Different direction than the first two snipers. Different grove. Brennan pressed himself flat against the ground and waited. The Japanese sniper who just fired at him would be watching for movement, waiting for Brennan to reveal his exact position. Brennan counted to 180. 3 minutes of complete stillness. Then he carefully, very slowly, raised his head just enough to see through his scope. He glassed the area southwest of his position. Multiple tree lines, multiple groves, hundreds of potential sniper positions. This would take time. At 0944, he found the shooter. The Japanese sniper had repositioned after firing, but not far enough. He'd moved to a different branch in the same tree. Brennan could see him 68 feet up, 298 yards away. The sniper was scanning with binoculars, searching for Brennan's position. Brennan adjusted his scope. 3 clicks up for the increased range. 2 clicks right for wind, which had picked up slightly. He fired. The sniper dropped the binoculars and fell forward. His body caught on branches, hung there for a moment, then tore free and plummeted to the ground. 3 confirmed kills. But Brennan's position was compromised again. The shot had given away his location. He needed to move. Before he could, Japanese machine gun fire raked the coconut palms. The bullets tore through palm fronds and struck the ground around Brennan's position. The fire lasted about 8 seconds, maybe 40 rounds. Brennan rolled left and crawled rapidly toward a bomb crater 25 yards away. The machine gun fired again, tracking his movement, but the gunner was firing blind. The rounds impacted behind Brennan as he dove into the crater. The crater was roughly 10 feet in diameter and 4 feet deep. Brennan pressed himself against the eastern side, breathing hard. His hands were shaking, not from fear, from adrenaline. The machine gun had come close. Very close. He forced himself to calm down. Controlled breathing. Count to 4 on the inhale, hold for 2, exhale for 6. After 2 minutes, his hands steadied. He repositioned at the crater rim and glassed the jungle. The machine gun position would be somewhere southwest of the banyan grove, covering the area where the snipers had been operating. The gunner had opened fire when Brennan shot the 3rd sniper. That meant the machine gun crew and the snipers were working together. Coordinated operations. That was bad. It meant the Japanese were adapting to Brennan's tactics faster than he'd expected. At 1018, Brennan spotted movement near the base of the banyan grove. 2 figures moving through undergrowth. They were too far away and too concealed for positive identification, but their movement pattern suggested they were searching for something. Searching for him. Brennan made a decision. He couldn't stay in the bomb crater. If the Japanese sent a patrol to his position, they'd surround the crater and he'd have no escape route. He needed to break contact and relocate to a completely different area. He crawled out of the crater on the northeast side, away from the Japanese positions. He low-crawled through grass and undergrowth for approximately 80 yards before standing up and running in a crouch toward the American lines. Japanese rifle fire followed him. Bullets snapped past his head, kicked up dirt near his boots. He ran in a zigzag pattern, not because it made him harder to hit, that was mostly a myth, but because it prevented the Japanese shooters from settling into a rhythm. He reached American lines at 10:31. A private from B Company challenged him. Brennan identified himself and was waved through. He walked directly to Major Crawford's command post. Crawford was reviewing maps with his executive officer. He looked up when Brennan entered. Crawford asked, "How many?" Brennan said, 3 confirmed. Japanese are using coordinated teams. Snipers with machine gun support. They're hunting me now. Crawford nodded slowly. Then he said, "Good. That means they're worried. Go rest. Be ready to move again at 0600 tomorrow." January 23rd began with rain. Heavy tropical rain that reduced visibility to less than 100 yards and turned the jungle floor into soup. Brennan sat in a lean-to he'd constructed from a poncho and waited for the weather to clear. His Remington was wrapped in an oiled cloth to keep moisture out of the action. The Unertl scope was protected under his shirt to prevent water from entering the tube. The rain stopped at 0847. By 0915, visibility had improved enough for operations. Brennan had chosen a new position, a small rise 400 yards southeast of the banyan grove. The rise gave him elevation advantage and a different angle on the grove. If Japanese snipers were still operating from those trees, they'd be positioned to watch his previous locations. They wouldn't expect him to shoot from a completely different direction. He set up behind a fallen tree trunk and began scanning. At 0933, he found sniper number 4. This one had learned from his dead comrades. He was positioned much higher, 94 feet up in a banyan tree. His concealment was excellent. Brennan could barely see him even with 10 power magnification. Just a dark shape among leaves, motionless, patient. Range, 317 yards. Extreme upward angle. Tricky shot. Brennan adjusted his scope. 4 clicks up for range. The angle was steep enough that gravity's effect on the bullet would be reduced. He needed to compensate by aiming slightly lower than normal. He fired. The shot felt good. Solid trigger brake, good follow-through. But the bullet missed. Brennan saw leaves rustle about 8 inches to the right of the target. Wind had pushed the bullet. The Japanese sniper reacted instantly. He began descending the tree, moving fast. Brennan worked the bolt, chambered another round. He tracked the descending sniper through his scope, waited for a clear shot. The sniper was moving through branches, appearing and disappearing. At 67 feet, the sniper paused to reposition his grip. Brennan fired. The sniper fell. His rifle fell separately, clattering through branches. 4 kills. 1 miss. Brennan's accuracy was 80%. Good for combat conditions, but not good enough. He'd trained to shoot 95% accuracy at known distances. The jungle was degrading his performance. He stayed in position and continued scanning. Found sniper number 5 at 1047. This one was in a different grove, 400 yards northwest. Low position, only 41 feet up. Unusual. Most snipers climbed higher for better fields of fire. Low positions offered better concealment but limited visibility. Brennan studied the position for several minutes. Something felt wrong. The location was too obvious, too easy to spot. Could be bait. He scanned the surrounding area, looking for a second sniper covering the first. Found nothing. After 10 minutes of observation, Brennan decided the lone sniper was NT bait, just a less experienced shooter who did NT understand the importance of elevation. He fired. The sniper fell. 5 kills. But Brennan's ammunition was running low. He'd started with 80 rounds. He'd fired 9 shots. 2 snipers required 2 shots each. He had 71 rounds left, but he was carrying 60 of those in his pack. Only 11 rounds were immediately accessible in stripper clips on his belt. He needed to be more conservative with ammunition. Every shot had to count. At 12:03, Brennan relocated again. The Japanese would be triangulating his position based on sound. He moved to a new hide 200 yards south of his previous position. The afternoon was quiet. No movement in the trees. No targets. The Japanese snipers had gone to ground. At 1644, Brennan returned to American lines. He'd been in position for nearly 8 hours with only one canteen of water and no food. He was dehydrated and exhausted. Major Crawford debriefed him. 5 confirmed kills. 1 miss. Crawford seemed satisfied. He told Brennan to rest and be ready to go out again at dawn. That night, Brennan cleaned his rifle and reloaded his spent stripper clips. His hands were steady, but his mind was racing. 5 enemy snipers dead in 2 days. How many were left? Intelligence had estimated 11 Japanese snipers operating in the Point Cruz area. If that estimate was accurate, 6 remained. And those 6 now knew exactly what Brennan looked like, exactly what rifle he carried, and exactly how he operated. January 24th, 06:27 hours. Brennan was in position before dawn. He'd chosen another new location, a cluster of large rocks 150 yards southeast of where he'd been operating. The rocks provided excellent cover and good sight lines toward multiple tree groves. First light came at 0641. Brennan began scanning immediately. At 0719, he found sniper number 6. The Japanese soldier was positioned in a palm tree, 63 feet up, 224 yards distant. The position seemed wrong, too low, too exposed from Brennan's elevated vantage point. Brennan hesitated. This felt like the bait scenario he'd worried about before. The visible sniper positioned to draw fire while a second sniper waited to kill anyone who took the shot. He lowered his rifle and scanned the surrounding area. Took his time. Checked every tree within 400 yards. Looked for anything unusual. At 0738, he found the trap. Second sniper, 87 feet up in a banyan tree 109 yards west of the bait. This one was positioned perfectly. He had clear line of sight to Brennan's previous positions from January 23rd. He was waiting for Brennan to appear there or to shoot at the bait sniper. But Brennan was 150 yards south of where the Japanese sniper expected him to be. The ambush had failed before it started. Brennan had a decision to make. He could shoot the bait sniper and then try to get the real threat before the real threat relocated. Or he could shoot the real threat first and let the bait figure out what happened. He chose option 2. The real threat was the dangerous one. Brennan aimed at the high sniper. Range, 312 yards. Steep upward angle. Wind negligible. He fired. The Japanese sniper fell. Brennan immediately swung his rifle back to the bait sniper in the palm tree. The bait was looking around frantically, trying to figure out where the shot had come from. He started descending the tree rapidly. Brennan led the movement and fired. The bait sniper fell. 2 shots, 2 kills. 7 total confirmed kills over 3 days. But the second shot had been rushed. Brennan knew it even as he squeezed the trigger. The shot placement was low. He'd hit the descending sniper in the legs or lower torso. Not immediately fatal. The wounded sniper hit the ground and began crawling toward cover. Brennan could see him moving through undergrowth, dragging himself with his arms. Brennan worked the bolt and fired again. The movement stopped. 8 confirmed kills. 12 rounds fired total. 4 Japanese snipers remaining if the intelligence estimate was correct. At 0804, Japanese mortar rounds began falling around Brennan's position. The first round impacted 30 yards short. The second was 20 yards short. They were walking the rounds closer, adjusting based on where they thought the shot had originated. Brennan grabbed his rifle and ran. He sprinted east, away from the rock cluster. Behind him, The third mortar salvo obliterated the rocks where he'd been positioned 4 seconds earlier. He dropped into a shell crater and caught his breath. His heart was hammering. That had been close. Too close. The Japanese weren't just adapting. They were coordinating multiple assets to kill him. Snipers, machine guns, now mortars. They wanted him dead badly enough to dedicate significant resources to the effort. That was actually good news. Every asset focused on killing Brennan was an asset not focused on killing other Americans. As long as he stayed alive and kept hunting, he was drawing Japanese attention and resources away from the frontline infantry. But staying alive was becoming more difficult. Brennan relocated to another position and resumed scanning. He needed to find the remaining snipers before they found him. At 10:51, he spotted movement. Ground level, 73 yards south of his position. A figure moving through jungle undergrowth, crawling slowly, deliberately. Brennan watched through his scope. The figure was wearing Japanese uniform, carrying an Arisaka rifle with a scope. One of the remaining snipers was on the ground, hunting Brennan the way Brennan had been hunting them. This changed everything. The Japanese had shifted tactics. Instead of waiting in trees for targets to appear, they were actively stalking. Ground-level approach, using terrain for concealment, closing distance before taking a shot. Aggressive. Smart. Dangerous. Brennan tracked the crawling sniper through his scope. The range was close enough that Brennan could have taken the shot easily, but shooting would reveal his position. And if this sniper had support, a second sniper covering him, Brennan would be exposed. He waited. Let the Japanese sniper crawl closer. The range decreased to 60 yards. Then 50. Then 40. At 35 yards, the Japanese sniper stopped crawling and rose to a kneeling position. He was scanning the area, searching for Brennan. Brennan fired. The Japanese sniper collapsed. 9 confirmed kills. 3 remaining. But Brennan had fired from a static position. That was a mistake. He should have relocated before shooting. He grabbed his rifle and started to move. Before he could stand, a bullet struck the ground 6 inches from his left hand. The impact sprayed dirt into his face. Second sniper. Somewhere close. Brennan rolled left and pressed himself flat. He didn't move for 40 seconds. Listened. Watched. Tried to determine where the shot had originated. Another bullet struck near his head. This one closer. The Japanese sniper was adjusting based on Brennan's position. Brennan couldn't stay here. He had to move. He pushed himself up and sprinted. Ran hard toward a tree line 50 yards east. Japanese rifle fire followed him. 3 shots, all misses. He dove behind a large tree trunk and pressed himself against it. His breathing was ragged. His hands were shaking again. That sniper had been close. Very close. Maybe 70 or 80 yards. If Brennan hadn't moved when he did, the third shot would have connected. He forced himself to calm down. Breathing control. Count to 4. After 2 minutes, he risked a look around the tree trunk. Scanned the area where the shots had originated. Saw nothing. The Japanese sniper was concealed, probably in undergrowth, waiting for Brennan to expose himself again. Brennan made a decision. He could NT win a duel at close range with a bolt-action rifle against an opponent who knew his approximate position. He needed to break contact, get distance, reset the engagement on his terms. He moved carefully through the tree line, staying low, using trees for cover. Put 200 yards between himself and the Japanese sniper's last known position before stopping. He climbed into a position with good visibility and resumed scanning. Found nothing. The snipers had gone to ground again. At 15:34, Brennan spotted 2 Japanese soldiers moving along a trail 280 yards away. Neither was carrying a scoped rifle. Regular infantry. Brennan let them pass. His mission was counter-sniper operations, not interdicting patrols. Every shot not fired was ammunition conserved and a position not revealed. At 16:48, he returned to American lines. Major Crawford was waiting. Crawford asked for numbers. Brennan reported 9 confirmed kills over 3 days. 15 rounds fired. 6 kills with single shots, 3 kills that required multiple shots. Crawford said Division Headquarters wanted a full report. The 147th Infantry Sector had seen 0 American casualties from sniper fire in the past 2 days. That was the first 48-hour period without sniper casualties since the regiment had arrived on Guadalcanal. Whatever Brennan was doing, it was working. Crawford gave Brennan the next day off. Rest and refit. Be ready to resume operations on January 26th. But Brennan knew the remaining Japanese snipers wouldn't take a day off. They'd be repositioning, adapting, preparing. January 26th, 06:03 hours. Brennan was back in position. He'd chosen a location he had NT used before, a destroyed Japanese ammunition bunker 250 yards northeast of the Banyan Grove. The bunker had been hit by American artillery during the Marine offensive. The roof was partially collapsed, but the walls provided cover and firing ports gave him multiple sight lines. He settled in and began the familiar routine. Glass the trees. Look for movement. Look for shapes that don't belong. Be patient. At 0747, he found sniper number 10. The Japanese soldier was positioned high, 101 feet up in a banyan tree. Excellent concealment. Brennan could barely see him even with 10 power magnification. Just a dark shape partially obscured by leaves. Range: 341 yards. Extreme angle. Wind approximately 5 miles per hour from the east. Difficult shot. But Brennan had made difficult shots before. He adjusted his scope. 5 clicks up. 2 clicks left for wind. He controlled his breathing. Began his trigger squeeze. The Remington fired. Through his scope, Brennan saw the Japanese sniper jerk and fall. The body tumbled through branches and disappeared into the jungle canopy below. 10 confirmed kills. 1 remaining if the intelligence estimate was accurate. Brennan immediately relocated. He'd fired from the bunker, which meant the Japanese now knew that position was active. He moved north to a different hide 180 yards away. At 0921, something moved in Brennan's peripheral vision. Ground level. Close. He turned his head slowly. Saw a figure crawling through undergrowth 45 yards west of his position. The 11th sniper. He'd been hunting Brennan the way Brennan had been hunting them. Ground approach, using terrain, closing the distance. And he was between Brennan and the American lines. Brennan couldn't take a shot. The angle was wrong. He'd have to expose himself completely to get his rifle on target. And if he missed, or if there was a second Japanese soldier nearby, he'd be in a close-range firefight with a bolt-action rifle. Bad odds. He stayed motionless and watched the Japanese sniper crawl closer. 40 yards. 35 yards. 30 yards. The Japanese sniper stopped and rose to a kneeling position. He was facing away from Brennan, scanning toward the bunker where Brennan had been positioned earlier. Brennan slowly, very slowly, brought his rifle up. The movement took 20 seconds. Any faster and the motion might catch the Japanese sniper's peripheral vision. When the Remington was shouldered and aimed, Brennan paused, controlled his breathing, put the crosshairs on the Japanese sniper's upper back. Range, 29 yards. Point blank. No need for elevation or windage adjustment. He fired. The Japanese sniper pitched forward and didn't move. 11 confirmed kills. 16 rounds fired total. The Point Cruz groves were clear. Brennan worked the bolt and chambered another round. Kept his scope on the fallen sniper. Waited for movement. Waited for a second Japanese soldier to reveal himself. Nothing happened. The jungle was silent except for the distant sound of waves on the beach and birds calling from the canopy. After 5 minutes, Brennan rose and approached the body cautiously. The Japanese sniper was dead. Single shot through the upper spine. Brennan searched the body. Found a small notebook with hand-drawn maps of American positions. Found a wristwatch that had stopped at 0921, the exact time Brennan had fired. Found identification papers written in Japanese characters Brennan couldn't read. He left everything except the rifle. The Arisaka Type 97 was in excellent condition. Scope appeared undamaged. Brennan would turn it over to intelligence. He began walking back toward American lines. It was 0934. He'd been hunting Japanese snipers for 4 days. 11 enemies killed. 0 American casualties from sniper fire during that period. The mission was complete. Brennan delivered the captured Arisaka rifle to Major Crawford at 1015. Crawford examined it briefly, then handed it to his intelligence officer. Crawford asked Brennan if he was certain all the snipers were dead. Brennan said he'd killed 11 men in 4 days. Whether that accounted for all enemy snipers operating in the area, he couldn't confirm. But no American had been shot by a sniper since he'd begun counter-sniper operations. That suggested the threat was neutralized. Crawford nodded. He told Brennan to write a detailed after-action report. Division headquarters wanted documentation of tactics, equipment, and results. Brennan spent that afternoon writing. He documented every engagement. Ranges, angles, conditions, results. He described his equipment, the Remington Model 30 Express, the Unertl 10X scope, the hand-loaded ammunition. He described his tactics, observation, patience, relocation after every shot, avoiding patterns. He submitted the report that evening. Expected it to disappear into the bureaucracy. Instead, 3 days later, Colonel Andrew Morrison summoned Brennan to regimental headquarters. Morrison had read the report. He had questions. Could Brennan teach other soldiers to do what he'd done? Could he create a counter-sniper program? Could he train designated marksmen who could provide long-range precision fire support for infantry operations? Brennan said yes, but he'd need time and equipment. The Army didn't issue scoped rifles to infantry units. He'd need to requisition civilian sporting rifles or acquire military sniper rifles from other units. Morrison said he'd handle the equipment issue. He wanted Brennan to develop a training program and select candidates. 2 weeks later, Brennan had 22 men assembled at a makeshift training range east of Henderson Field. The men were expert marksmen, riflemen who'd qualified at the highest levels during basic training. But none of them had combat experience as precision shooters. The Army had scrounged up 18 scoped rifles. Mix of equipment. 6 Springfield 1903A4 rifles with 2.5x Weaver scopes. 4 Winchester Model 70s similar to Brennan's rifle. 8 Remington Model 30 rifles with various scopes. Not standardized, but functional. Brennan started with fundamentals: breathing control, trigger discipline, wind estimation, range calculation. Then he moved to field craft. How to select positions, how to construct hides, how to relocate after firing, how to stay invisible. The training lasted 3 weeks. By the end, 19 of the 22 men could consistently hit man-sized targets at 400 yards under field conditions. Brennan organized them into 2-man teams. Each team had a shooter and a spotter. The spotter carried binoculars and a garand for security. His job was target identification, range estimation, and protection if enemy forces approached the shooter's position. On February 18th, Brennan took 6 teams into the field on a combat patrol west of the Matanikaw River. Their mission was to clear remaining Japanese positions and eliminate any snipers still operating in the area. The teams spread out across a 2-mile sector. Each team operated independently, moving, observing, engaging targets of opportunity. Brennan's team engaged 4 Japanese soldiers that day. 4 shots, 4 kills. Ranges from 280 to 430 yards. The other 5 teams reported similar results. 27 Japanese soldiers killed. 0 American casualties. The counter-sniper program was declared a success. Brennan continued training and operating until March 1943. By then, the Japanese had completed their evacuation of Guadalcanal. The campaign was over. Brennan was promoted to Sergeant First Class and transferred to a training command in Australia. His job was teaching marksmanship and counter-sniper tactics to replacement soldiers heading to combat units throughout the Pacific. He never fired his Remington in combat again. In November 1943, Brennan was reassigned to the United States. The Army wanted him at Fort Benning to help develop doctrine for designated marksman programs. He spent the rest of the war teaching, not fighting. He was discharged in December 1945 with a Bronze Star for his actions on Guadalcanal. The citation mentioned extraordinary skill and courage in neutralizing enemy sniper threats. It didn't mention the Remington Model 30 Express. It didn't mention the Unertl scope. It did mention that Brennan had used his personal hunting rifle to kill 11 trained military snipers in 4 days. Brennan returned to Pennsylvania. He worked as a machinist, got married, raised 3 children. He kept the Remington in a gun safe in his basement. Occasionally took it out for deer hunting season, but mostly it sat unused. In 1989, a military historian researching Guadalcanal operations found references to Brennan's counter-sniper work in declassified after-action reports. The historian contacted Brennan through veteran organizations. Brennan, then 75 years old, confirmed the story. He provided detailed accounts of the engagements, showed the historian his original training notes from 1943, even let the historian examine the Remington, which was still in excellent condition after 52 years. The historian's book, published in 1991, included a chapter about Brennan's operations. The book described how one Pennsylvania National Guard sergeant with a deer rifle had cleared an entire sector of Japanese snipers in 4 days, how his tactics became the basis for Army counter-sniper doctrine, how his training program produced designated marksmen who served throughout the Pacific Campaign. Michael Brennan died in 2001 at age 87. His obituary in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette mentioned his World War II service and his Bronze Star. It mentioned that he was a Pennsylvania state rifle champion before the war. It didn't mention the 11 Japanese snipers. It did mention the 4 days in January 1943 when a mail-order rifle and a machinist's skill saved an entire battalion from invisible death. The Remington Model 30 Express was donated to the Pennsylvania Military Museum in Boalsburg. It sits in a display case with a placard describing its history. Most visitors walk past without stopping. It looks like any other vintage hunting rifle. But it's not. It is the rifle that proved civilian marksmanship skills and privately owned sporting rifles could be decisive in modern warfare. The rifle that changed how the US Army thought about precision shooting. The rifle that killed 11 men who were considered among the most dangerous soldiers in the Imperial Japanese Army. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button. Every like tells YouTube to share this with more people who care about real history, real heroism, real stories that deserve to be remembered. Subscribe and turn on notifications. We are rescuing forgotten stories from World War II every single week. Stories about regular people who did extraordinary things. Stories that the history books missed. Drop a comment right now. Tell us where you're watching from. Tell us if someone in your family served. Tell us if you've heard stories like this from your grandfather or uncle or father. You're not just watching. You're part of keeping these memories alive. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring. And thank you for making sure soldiers like Michael Brennan don't disappear into silence.